For the people that champion Islam, it seems like they do so in an exclusionary manner, that everybody has to be Islamic, that everybody has to be part of their religion, and that they can attack and kill people who disagree with their religion. Because I think one of the most beautiful things about the United States is the fact that we can tell a Cop to off, that we can tell a Christian to off, that we can tell a Muslim to off, that we can draw whatever we want, make fun of whatever we want, make porn out of whatever we want. And I would think that that is the coolest thing in the United States, and I think that that's what allows us to even do what we're doing here today.
Was October 7th a military operation or a terrorist attack?
So when you're paragliding in and you see a bunch of people partying, I mean, like, what are you thinking? Like, are you radioing back to base? Like, Muhammad, I don't know what to do. There's a bunch of partygoers here. Oh, I guess we just have to kill them all. I didn't know they'd be there. Like, take as many hostages as possible. Like, mow down as many you see. Like, we have videos we say it all comes from the IDF. That's not true. These dumb are recording videos of themselves.
You have to go to question. He didn't give a direct answer. Now I ask a question to you guys here on the panel. What is the age of consent in Islam, you would say?
Guys, the way this debate is going to work is I'm going to basically ask an open-ended question, and I'm going to give each party 2 minutes or 2:30, right, to go ahead and give their full stance and then get uninterrupted, and then the other individual will go ahead and give their full stance uninterrupted, and then we can go ahead and do a back and forth after the first round, at least when the stances are made. The first topic we're gonna actually, you know what, hold on, what the hell am I doing? Yo, we are so familiar with y'all, we forgot to introduce y'all ninjas. Yo, Desi, I'll start with you, man. Can you introduce us to the people, for the people that have been living under a rock?
Yeah, I do politics and philosophy on YouTube. I'm far left or far right, depending on who I'm arguing with. And today we're going to talk about my Islamophobia.
Fantastic.
All right. Honestly.
Welcome to the show, Destiny.
Yeah, welcome back.
I'm Sulaiman. I'm on Twitter. I investigate certain things, and yeah, same topics: politics and philosophy and theology.
Awesome.
First question,
guys. I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to start the timer here. We'll start with Destiny's kicking it off. Open-ended question: is Islam the path? And I'll just leave it open-ended, and you can go ahead and take it how you want.
I'm a big champion of American liberal democracy. I think that people like to push certain religions because things become trendy over time. But I think the important thing to keep in mind is right now, America runs the world. We don't just run it militarily. We don't just run it economically. We also run it culturally. And I think the reason why is because our values allow so many different types of people to come here. Like, just look at the four of us, around this table. Like, how many people here are from other countries or whose parents were immigrants? Like, the only country in the world where all of these different types of people, different types of religions, different types of ideologies can come together and then form a business in a capital-free investment environment and then broadcast that to the entire world on American invented technology is the United States of America. No Islamic country has done that. Ottoman Empire fell. Nobody's replaced it since. None of these Islamic countries are able to take as much culture as we have and kind of like mix them all together in the way that the United States has. And I worry sometimes that people that champion certain types of religions do so in kind of a militant way and do so in a bit of an exclusionary way as well. For instance, you should be able to make fun of anybody who you want. I think that you guys probably agree with that here more than anybody else. I agree with it on my platform, obviously. A lot of Muslim people don't agree with it. In France, when they did the Charlie Hebdo drawings of Muhammad, there were people that broke into that comic facility and they killed people because they were so upset that, people drew the Muhammad, whatever you say, praise be upon him, and they decided to go and kill the dude, killed multiple people in that attack. So I don't like the fact that for the people that champion Islam, it seems like they do so in an exclusionary manner, that everybody has to be Islamic, that everybody has to be part of their religion, and that they can attack and kill people who disagree with their religion. Because I think one of the most beautiful things about the United States is the fact that we can tell a Cop to fuck off, that we can tell a Christian to fuck off, that we can tell a Muslim to fuck off, that we can draw whatever we want, make fun of whatever we want, make porn out of whatever the fuck we want. And I would think that that is the coolest thing in the United States, and I think that that's what allows us to even do what we're doing here today. And I don't think any Islamic country or Muslim majority country has been able to achieve the world domination that the United States has when it comes to military, economy, and most importantly, culture.
All right. That's 2 minutes on the dot. Okay. Thank you, Destiny. Sulaiman, I'll turn it to you, my friend.
Yeah, of course. So first of all, I agree with his analysis of America, right, and American culture in current times. When he's mentioned about advancements, that's right, in current times, but then obviously that's failing and it's ignoring the entire history, right? So what that demonstrates is you don't need to be a specific culture or religion, because if you look at history, it was many of the advancements that were made both in science, culture, literature, the Renaissance in terms of Greek philosophy, theology, science. All of it came from the Islamic civilizations, so that they weren't backward, they were actually visionary in the past. Obviously things develop, things change. In terms of Islam being exclusionary, that's completely not true. Like, Islam within or totalitarian allows all religions, cultures, and psychologies within it. Now, in terms of what he's talking about in terms of freedom, I'm for all the freedom. The problem is we're seeing in real time that this propaganda no longer works, because in reality we've seen it. You speak against Judaism, you speak against Zionism, and they completely want to censor you. You're not allowed to mention the Holocaust in certain countries because you're going to be locked up, put in the gulags. You're not allowed to, right now in the United States, you can't even do BDS in 34 states because of Zionism. So as much as he wants to say it, it's not. And when you look at extremism, yes, there are extreme elements within Islam. One isn't going to deny that. But from a proportionate perspective, we've seen it, the extremism that's happened within Zionism. And so extremism is bred from different ideas, cultures, and it's even from atheism. We've seen the huge amount that's happened in terms of atheism. So extremism is everywhere. Now, in terms of Islam, I've got no issue with people being Muslim, Christian. They can be what they want, right? No problem whatsoever. My issue is when there's dual standards. So someone like Destiny feels pretty chill about attacking Muslims. No problem. All good. As long as you're willing to debate the ideas, right? But the same type of people basically lose their minds if you're willing to talk about Judaism. They'll call you anti-Semitic. They'll want to put you in jail. So there is these dual standards, and and Judaism has the same standards that Islam has. The only difference is someone like Destiny won't call them out, and obviously we know why. So when you say you run the world, I guess America does from a overt perspective, but not from a covert perspective.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll turn it over to you, Destiny. What's your response to that?
Yeah, there was the Islamic Golden Age. It came and it went. We got democracy from the Greeks. We got multiculturalism, and we got former expanded governments from Romans. We got the whole industrial age from Europe. We got the age of the Catholic Church. These civilizations come and they go, and we don't go back to them. Sometimes people have a lot to contribute to the world, and then we get those things, and then the world moves on. You just never turn around and go back. If there was such an Islamic Golden Age, and if Muslims contributed so much to the world and so much to world culture, why did they lose it all? What happened to it? Why don't we see them continue to dominate today? And so far as like in the United States, you can't make fun of Nazis, or you can't make fun of Jews, or you can't make fun of whatever. You can make fun of whoever you want here. The laws will protect you doing whatever. That doesn't mean you'll necessarily get hosted on any platforms. But I mean, again, like, yeah, there might be some platforms that ban you if you say certain jokes here, but there are certain countries that I go to where if I walk around with just a picture of Muhammad, I don't have to worry about getting banned. I have to worry about getting beheaded. I think there's a significant difference there. I think I'd rather be worried about Susan coming after me on YouTube than I would be about Abdel coming after me to murder me because I said something about his religion that he doesn't like. So, yeah.
I think he said Abdul.
Abdel.
Okay. Your response to that?
So first of all, let's take the last one. So yeah, you may have to worry about Abdul basically being an individual who doesn't follow the rules of Islam and basically has its ego, just like you probably be worried about Weinstein getting angry with you and stabbing you because you went against Judaism, or for example, if you're walking in Israel just because you're Christian getting spit on, or if you're basically a different religion, if you're a Muslim or Christian, being killed by Brett Weinstein or whatever the name is. So you've got this ideas in many cultures. In terms of what you said, of course, we received democracy from the Greeks, but you know how we got that information from the Greeks? It was from the Muslims. And you're right, civilizations start and end. So in reality, your argument is this is the current civilization, and based on your own argument, it will end. And actually, many historians say that the proletarians within any society become the dominant. And right now, according to even historical literature, the proletarians are the Muslims. So this could be a situation where they take over. But I'm not saying they should. I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying from a historic perspective, when you're looking at civilizations, civilizations come and fall. I have no issue. I'm not trying to advocate that Islam should take over. That's not my point. My specific point about it is whether you're able to, someone like Destiny, able to attack Islam, and he's fine. He even said, I hate Islam, sorry. But he would never say about, I hate Judaism, even though Judaism is much more extreme. Any problem someone like him would ever have with Islam, I've always explained and I've always shown that Judaism is much more extreme in all aspects, in all endeavors. So yeah, in terms of YouTube being banned, so yeah, you can deplatform someone, you could take someone's voice away, that's one aspect. But also we've seen the genocidal nature of extremist regimes, whether it comes from all religions or no religions, and we've seen that in real time right now.
I have a follow-up question.
Just a final point. There's a reason why we're on YouTube discussing this right now, and we're going to be talking about Zionism in Rumble. So that says it all.
Okay.
So can I
let you?
real
Yeah,
quick?
please
yeah,
go
just
ahead.
real
And
quick,
then
like
follow-up question.
I mean, I'll shit on Judaism, but the problem is not many people care. If I go online and I start talking about like apparently Jewish people like bite off foreskins or some shit when they circumcise kids, like every Jewish friend I have or every Jewish guy online will be like, yeah, that's pretty weird. We don't really do that much anymore, right? That's what everybody will say. If I go online, and I talk about like marrying or fucking 9-year-olds, or if I do like here's a funny picture of Muhammad, AI generated, I've got like 5 million death threats in my inbox. It's not even remotely close. We can pretend that like we're just as worried about a Weinstein stabbing you for for being Christian as we would be about
Jewish.
like a Muhammad beheading you for being, Christian or Jewish. But I mean, where are all of the Muslims trying to immigrate to? And where are all of the Christians and Jews going? I don't see this reverse, like Christians and Jews feeling like they can find safe havens in these Arab majority Muslim countries. I do see a lot of Muslims from those countries trying to go to Europe and trying to go to the United States. And I think there's a reason for that.
Okay.
Okay, so just
go ahead. To respond, go ahead.
So,
sure,
so the first thing is, yes, you would be banned in all forms of social media if you said Jews try to basically bite the foreskin. I mean, Lucas Gage is a
I've tweeted this out before.
Lucas Gage is a prime example of someone who calls Jews out and completely is banned. So you would, in terms of death threats, I mean, I've had a huge amount of death threats from Zionists, right? And I've had my name on a missile. So let's not pretend that this is only happening one way, right? And proportionally, there's 2 billion Muslims. There's only a small number of Jews, and yeah, the death threats are disproportionate. In terms of when you talk about Myron and Walter, someone like you is an example that you would be willing to mention that. And again, you probably, and I know you don't know the epistemology and the hermeneutics behind that argument, but you wouldn't mention about Judaism, which literally says marry 3-year-olds. And this is an example of when we're mentioned, as an example, when I mention in debates, they lose their minds. They'll block me, they'll try and cancel me. And this has happened on many platforms. So it does happen indeed. I think Weinstein, you meant Weinstein is like a Jewish name, so you probably just got confused there. And the last bit about immigration. So of course, the reason people emigrate to Western countries and not obviously Israel is because due to Zionist agenda, basically Muslim countries have been bombed to the ground. Now, when there's certain countries that have basically not been bombed to the ground, we're seeing emigration happening. We're seeing basically people from Britain go to Dubai and go to UAE. So it's not specifically about that, but it's really about a 20-year, even longer, psychological impact of destroying these countries for Israel.
Okay.
I know we were meant to talk about that, but you brought
There's
up
like so
immigration.
many other things.
Okay,
we'll get
Yeah.
into that. I got one question, and then we'll switch over. Follow-up question, because we've already been on the topic. Is Islam a religion of peace? Who wants to take it first? And I'll go 2 minutes so you can take your stance, and then we can go from there. Who wants to take that first?
I can go first, I guess. I don't
Start
know if we'll
the
disagree on
timer.
this. My background is Catholic. I grew up in the Archdiocese in Omaha, Nebraska. I've seen a lot of different things between different Catholic churches. I've seen a lot of different things in a Catholic church. I don't like generalizing any one particular religion because it feels really silly to do so. If you look at the culture and how people operate in Saudi Arabia, and then you compare that to the people, the Houthis in Yemen, you compare that to absolute monarchs in the Gulf states, compared to the secular dictatorship in Egypt, compared to the Islamist dictatorship, the Ayatollah in Iran. There's so many different types of Muslim people all over the world. Muslims in the United States are going to be way different. Muslims in Miami are going to be way different than Muslims in Dearborn, Michigan, or Muslims in Europe, in France and Paris, in London, England. It depends. Like everybody's so different. I wouldn't say that Islam is a religion of peace, but I also wouldn't say that Christianity is a religion of peace.
What about Judaism?
Judaism is. I wouldn't say anything is the religion of peace. I think that people can be violent with religions and people can be not violent with religions. It really just depends on the individual actors. I do think that Islam kind of has a problem sometimes, and that Islam kind of has baked into it more political ideology, which I think can be problematic. But I mean, there are like 2 billion Muslims on the planet, and I think that they're, ironically enough, that was brought up in the last point, is like these countries have been destroyed. I mean, I'm pretty sure that Arabs have probably killed each other more than any Western intervention countries have, at least for the 1900s and onwards. So, or the 1920s and onwards, at least. So, yeah.
Real quick, Destiny, if you're going to choose a religion to go to, let's just say you're going to choose a religion to go towards, which would it be? Islam, Christianity,
We know the answer.
Buddhism?
Well, I feel like, damn, if Jews run the world and are secretly in charge of fucking everything, I feel like I want to be with those dudes. I feel like from all the things that I've learned about religion, I like Christianity because I feel like the coolest like cheerleader guy is Jesus, because he's super selfless. He's obviously strong. He's God. He does all this shit, but he like handles. He treats everybody with respect, even sinners. Don't judge the sinner, judge the sin. Like I feel like Jesus is like the prime example of if every single person on the planet could be a particular figure, he would be the one that you would want to be like. So, fuck the Jews for killing him. I'll say that, okay?
All right.
That's about to be criminalized.
I'll turn it to you, Sulaiman. What is Islam a religion of peace?
I agree with his assessment actually in the first part of it, right? The individuals.
Let's go to Rumble.
It depends on the individuals, and also on top of that as well, it depends on the sects and ideas and ideologies, right? So I agree with it. In terms of Islam being a political ideology, again, this is like a false norma and false notion that's applied to Islam, because actually every ideology, whether it's Western or religious, has political elements in it. From Greek, from Plato's Republic to even current times when you've basically got these scenarios happening. Actually, within the United Kingdom, Judaism actually has their own legal courts. They have their own police. So they have their own kind of political framework, even within Western countries. So when people make that argument, it's basically based on either propaganda, or they've seen certain extreme elements within Islam and assuming and basically applying that to everybody else. But everything else, I agree with his assessment. In terms of Arabs killing each other, that's also fake as well, but we'll talk about that. Like, I guess he's going to talk about Syria, but again, that was because of Western intervention.
Okay. Was October 7th a military operation or a terrorist attack? Again, the question is, or the topic is, was October 7th a military operation or a terrorist attack? I'll take it to, I think you started last time, so Destiny, you could start on this one, and we'll do a fire run at the end of this one, and I'll let you take it.
Yeah, a military operation seeks to accomplish military goals. If you're doing an invasion and you're a military, there's probably some military goal you're trying to accomplish. Hamas very clearly had no military goal they were trying to accomplish. The goal was to incite terror in the citizens. That's why thousands of rockets were launched at the beginning of the invasion. That's why when they cut through and they started going into Israel proper, they hit up kibbutzes, some of which had nothing to do with the military. They went to that Nova festival and they killed, raped, and took hostages from tons of people there. These people didn't present any sort of actual militaristic threat or have any kind of militaristic gain. The entire idea was to take, some 200 plus hostages back, every single one of these being a violation, by the way, of the law of armed conflict. And no, that's not the same as Palestinians that are facing detention in Israeli prisons, even though that argument is often made. So no, every single part of the operation on October 7th was just designed to instill and incite fear in the Israeli population. There was no reasonable military operation or goal that Hamas was trying to accomplish, and that's why they accomplished none. And it led to, as we've seen now, the reprisal from Israel in response to this with a war.
Okay. All right, with another minute to spare. Sulaiman, let's turn it to you.
Yeah, look, it was a military operation, right? You don't need to be a military to conduct a military operation. They're not allowed to have a military, right? So what the actual target was to go to the to do a military operation. The kibbutzes did hold military personnel, hence why that was their target. The Nova festival was never meant to be there. It was extended by a day without anybody knowing it. They were meant to go to the kibbutz, get the Israeli hostages, military personnel, and swap them for the Palestinian hostages that are kept in Israeli prisons. And they are the same, because in reality many of them have not been held trial. They've basically been kept there and they've basically been abused. The only difference is when the state of Israel does it, it's called prisoners, and when basically Palestinian does it or Hamas does it, it's called hostages. That's the only difference. It's just a difference in language. Look, that is the biggest fake news ever. Like, this mass propaganda has been debunked. There's no evidence for this whatsoever. I would like Destiny to provide evidence of there have been an actual real evidence of rape, because this is just like fake news that's been debunked, just like the 40 beheaded babies that we debunked, just like any baby being killed by Israel we debunked. So all of this has been debunked. They didn't plan to take 200 hostages. It's actually the opposite. They did not expect the Nova festival to be there. They didn't expect it, and they didn't expect the Israelis to react in the manner that they reacted in terms of killing many of their own hostages, and so many of their own people. And so for that reason, you had a scenario where they end up taking many more hostages than they expected. And that's why even Israeli literature says that they've been trying to get rid of some of them hostages, because they never expected to have such a multitude of hostages. And remember, all of our arguments are based on Israeli news. So really, the arguments are much stronger, because this is even by their own news they're making these arguments. One thing I appreciate what Destiny said is that they wanted to go after the Israelis, the state of Israel. And he is very much accurate in that, because he didn't say Jews, because in reality it was an attack on the state as opposed to a people, because the Hamas charter is very clear that they don't have no issues with Jewish people.
Okay, turn to you. And again, the topic is, was October 7th a military operation or a terrorist attack?
Yeah, so the idea that the Nova Festival was moved today, this is a multi-day festival. I mean, you could look at all the flyers beforehand. It's not like this was just one day. And also the idea that it was moved and nobody knew. If that was the case, then how did the party people know to go to the festival? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, and also when you're paragliding in and you see a bunch of people partying, I mean, like, what are you thinking? Like, are you radioing back to base? Like, Mohammed, I don't know what to do. There's a bunch of partygoers here. Oh, I guess we just have to kill them all. I didn't know they'd be there. Like, take as many hostages as possible. Like, mow down as many mother you see. Like, we have videos we say it all comes from the IDF. That's not true. These dumb were recording videos of themselves. You have videos of people walking up and down porta potties, shooting in with their assault rifle. But maybe they think that there are secret IDF soldiers hiding in those. I don't know. Maybe they operate from porta potties in Hamas so much that they think the IDF does it as well. The idea, the 40 beheaded baby thing wasn't true. Israel never said it. This was a misreport by the media. If you try to trace down where that original claim came from, it originated from Twitter. It did not come from any Israeli reported source. Again, everybody can go look for it. You can go find it. That original source is not an Israeli source. We can say the mass rape propaganda, but I mean, we've got tons of eyewitness reports of hearing rapes happening and witnessing rapes happening. Now we've had people that were hostages that have come out who have said that they were sexually assaulted, and they know that other hostages were being sexually assaulted. And we've got a lot of charred bodies and a lot of dead people whose underwear were torn off, bodies where there was blood coming out of the vagina, bodies where the genitalia were shot over and over again. But the problem is that when you've got an invading, terrorist organization that is raping you, they also tend to kill you as well. It's pretty hard to get away from that. It's really funny when people say like, oh, like where are all of the rape survivors? Well, believe it or not, when an invading military force is raping you, they're probably going to kill you too. And that's why over 100 of the bodies that were found were charred beyond all recognition, but still kind of hard to explain why the legs were open and why the clothes were torn off the bottom halves of these bodies. Yeah, we can say that arguments are made all from the Israeli news, but I mean, whose fault is that? Hamas isn't open about anything. When we go through and we try to audit Israel on some of these, massacres in the past or some of the bad actions they've done, we can only do that because Israel is a democracy and we have the ability to actually audit them. That's why Israel hosts its own criticism in the form of Bet Salem or in the form of Haaretz. What is the Hamas equivalent to Bet Salem? What is the Hamas equivalent to Haaretz? They don't host any of their own criticism. They throw people off buildings and they kill people who think that they're in opposition to the government there.
2 minutes. Okay. All right, I'll turn it over to Sulaiman.
So in terms of Nova Festival, you misunderstood what I said. I didn't say it was moved. I said it was extended, and I provided significant evidence on my Twitter page that it was extended. It was meant to be 1 day, and then it ended up being increased to 2 and then 3 days. So that's what I said. So no, they weren't expected, not because it was moved, but because it was extended. In terms of 40 beheaded babies, I've done a thread on this. What you're saying is fake news. It was reported by a journalist. It was also reported by I-24 News, which is run by a very good friend of Netanyahu. That's where some of this fake news about 40 beheaded babies was propagated. And by the way, there was 0 babies killed. The only people killing babies is the Zionist terrorist regime. So when you mention terrorists, I think you're talking about the Zionist regime. When you said that the hostages were assaulted, there's no evidence of that. Many of the eyewitness testimonies have been exposed. For example, Riz Cohen, he literally said, oh, I heard it. And then later on, he changed his testimony to say, oh, I saw it. There was another guy who said that he saw 29 people being raped. And then again, it got exposed as being a lie. So many of these eyewitness testimonies are by settlers or basically Israeli liars who want to perpetuate the lies. Look, they had GoPro cameras. They want you to believe that they had GoPro cameras and they malfunctioned, then nobody saw anything. So whenever these atrocities occurred, for some reason, the GoPro cameras stopped working. It's the most ridiculous argument ever, but they want you to believe that. In terms of like people being charred, people were charred. We saw it. They got charred by Israelis when they were using Apache helicopters. As an example, 200 Palestinians were killed, or as they say, Hamas people or the resistance were killed. And they basically counted them as Israeli numbers. And then later they found out, no, they weren't Israeli, they were Palestinian. So that's how they were killed. They were killed their own people as well as they killed them. And this is the problem. The Israelis killed many of their own people because they lost their minds when they came there. This is the problem that they don't want to speak about. So that's the thing about the time. And in terms of Israelis, you can't trust anything. They lie and lie and lie. Remember when they about Shireen Abu Akleh, they claimed that they didn't kill her, and then later on this got exposed that they did actually kill her, and it's only when it got exposed. So yeah, you can't trust the Israeli news. They lie until they get exposed.
2 minutes.
My argument about Israel was that if we actually had independent sources, the situation would be much worse. So even with Israeli sources, the lies are being exposed.
Okay. Rebuttal to that?
Yeah, again, I've never heard anything about the festival being extended by 1 day. It seems like there's a lot of people that were able to stay there, even though the festival was extended. But let's assume that all of that was true. Even if it was extended by 1 day, why kill everybody at the festival? There's no reason for that. If you show up and you come upon a festival and you're like, oh, it's not supposed to be here, why would you start killing them? We've seen the bodies. I asked you for the source on that, and I understand we're not going to have sources like right here in the middle of a debate, but that 40 beheaded baby thing did not come from an Israeli source. That's why you said a journalist, and then you said I-24 News. I don't believe that there was an Israeli source for any of that story. A lot of it got spread around on Twitter, but none of this actually came from Israel. None of this came from the government. None of it came from the IDF. It was memes that started to get snowball on Twitter and then started to get spread around and people talked about it, but there was no actual initial report from the IDF or from any IDF person or spokesman about there being 40 beheaded babies. It just didn't happen. It was a meme that spread out of control on Twitter. You talk about Ross Cohen. I don't know if you're sourcing Blumenthal in the gray zone for this, but I looked at the testimony that this guy gave on day one. On day one, when he was talking to a journalist outside of an ambulance, he didn't mention anything about seeing any rapes. But that's because it was a 3-minute clip that went viral on Twitter that got cut from a larger conversation. If you find the original conversation that exists on Facebook, he literally starts talking about rapes right after that 3-minute cut. They just didn't include it in the original Twitter video because it was cut down for time or something. I'm not entirely sure. When we say that we can't trust anything that the IDF says, I mean, we can run with that, but why would I trust anything Hamas says? Hamas literally put out a flyer saying that we don't kill civilians. We would never do this, despite the fact that dead Hamas soldiers are being found with documents on them, giving them explicit instructions on how to ask for for people to take their clothes off, how to ask for people to come with them, or how to take people hostage. And then we've got videos of them taking people hostages. We've got videos of people walking up and down cars, seeing charred bodies and seeing dead people in cars. This was way before IDF choppers showed up and started firing. You don't think that any of these Israeli citizens that were walking up and down the highways, finding all of the dead bodies, you don't think that any of them would have noticed there were Apache helicopters that were raining down hellfire on any of the cars? None of this actually happened. There would have been people reporting it. There would have been people posting videos of it.
Okay. Turn it to Sulaiman.
Oh, that's crazy. You said there was no Apache helicopters when we literally got the evidence of it. We've got Israeli literal news, Haaretz, saying that basically in Kibbutz Berry, they start shooting short artillery fire and killed 182 people, I believe, 118, I can't remember the exact number, but it was in the hundreds of people. Yasmin Porat says that they basically, when they were shooting and killing, they killed their own people. We've got eyewitness testimony from the Israeli side saying this, never mind the Hamas side. In terms of what you said, what you're not understanding is when the Nova Festival was there, they weren't expecting it. So then the plan wasn't there. What they didn't expect was for the Israelis to lose their mind and start attacking them and killing them and basically applying the Hannibal directive in a mass scale. Hannibal directive is they kill their own people so that they don't become hostages. That's what happened. So it wasn't Abdul, let's kill it. It was Epstein. Let's not kill these. Let's not kill these. Let's just shoot everyone. Don't let any hostages out because we're gonna have to negotiate. That's actually what happened. In terms of Riz Cohen, I said to you, and it is his testimony changed. And you mentioned in terms of the hostages held by Hamas. Bro, as soon as the hostages came out, all of them were literally saying they treat us really well, they didn't abuse us, they didn't sexually assault us. And then what happened was the Israelis were like, what the hell? These guys are making Hamas look good, like they're treating them like angels. They're treating them so well. They're giving them food as they're eating food themselves. And then what they did was when they started releasing hostages, they kept a blockade. And they didn't let them speak to the media for weeks and months, to put the propaganda into their minds, to control them, to manipulate them and make them lie. That's actually what happened. You talked about Hamas having documents. This is the most ridiculous argument ever. Like, no one believes this whole fake, like, oh, we were left with a passport, we were left some documents. Hamas are very clear. The charter is very clear. They have no issue with in terms of Jews, Christians or Muslims. Their charter is literally saying that they want freedom for the Palestinians. So in reality, the Hamas charter is very clear and their actions are very clear. This was a military occupation, military attack to save their own people.
Okay. And I think Destiny, you went first on this one, right?
Maybe?
Yeah,
I think you did. So Sulaiman got the last word. We could do a lightning round if you guys are good. Then I got one more question.
Sure. Yeah, real quick.
Yeah, we could do a lightning round here. Then that way you guys can go ahead and have open dialogue with each other. I saw that you guys had some things. You had one too?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, for the hostages that came out
3 minutes
initially.
on the clock.
Yeah, the first 100 hostages that came out didn't say anything about mistreatment. Of course, because they only let people out that had family members that were still being held hostage. You're not going to come out and be like, yeah, they're treated us like shit there. I think they're raping everybody. And then all of a sudden you're...
That's not true.
A lot of the hostages came out, yes, because they only allowed women and children of families to come out.
Some of the hostages were, but some of them weren't. And this was a fake news. But this was what Zionists made. They made the argument that when that woman came out and literally said, we've been treating really well, they were like, oh, husband's still there. And we actually checked it. It was fake news. So this is like the fake news.
You don't think there's any family members that are still being held from any of the...
I just said some of them
even
were,
if it's not family members, the fact that you would come out and start talking about the hostages when they release you wouldn't it make sense to tell
about it now then?
Well, now because I don't even know if there are any hostages left alive.
So
Israel just tried to do because Israel tried to do a ceasefire where they wanted to trade 40 hostages, and for some reason Israel's come down to 33 because it sounds like Hamas doesn't even have 40 hostages to trade.
Well, the thing is, Israel has killed a lot of their own hostages. That's happened for sure. But in reality, what's happened is the reason they need to negotiate is because the disagreement why no ceasefire is agreed is because Hamas want a permanent ceasefire, because the last ceasefire, what happened was when they got their own Palestinian hostages back, even within them 7 days, the Zionists took more hostages. So this is the problem. So it's illogical from Hamas's perspective.
Hamas has been asking for a 10-year ceasefire, okay, not a permanent ceasefire, because they want to qualify with 10 years because they still want to go to war with Israel in the future. But regardless, they don't have the right to ask for it.
This is not right. They want a permanent ceasefire.
You can't capture hostages and then make demands off of having hostages. That's not how military conflict works. And then when you bring up
but that's happened in the past because Israelis have hostages. Previously, what's happened is they've traded one Palestinian hostages for 1,000 Israeli
halfway,
hostages.
1.5 minutes.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. Wasn't that the exact opposite? Wasn't that the start of 2008 where they had one Israeli hostage and they traded him for 1,000 Palestinian hostages?
That's what I meant.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Also, you bring up like the attack helicopters. You bring up the attack helicopters, and yes, because war crimes pay off. Yes, that Apache helicopters were shooting.
The Israelis were killing their own people.
Yeah, that happened in places where there were holdouts from Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad that were still fighting. You bring up Kibbutz Berry.
No, that's not right. That's not right.
Absolutely right. There is no.
Why were there 200 charred Palestinians and 100 child Israelis because they weren't differentiated. They did the Hannibal
2 minutes.
Directive, and this is from Israeli sources. Israeli sources confirmed that they applied the Hannibal Directive.
Nope, they did
Do you
not,
know
because that Hannibal Directive has never been confirmed.
Haaretz,
That's why
it's in Haaretz.
No, the
It's in
Haaretz
Haaretz.
article that everybody cites, and I've read the original article on this because
I've read
Blumenthal
it.
cites
There's
it in
not
the
one
Great
article. There's
the
many
article.
articles.
Do you
There's
find it
many
strange?
articles.
Okay, if you're aware
Check
of that
my
article,
threads. Check
if you're
my
aware
threads.
of that article, do you think it's strange that the article had that they had fired on some likely
Did they
Israeli
shoot-
civilians without even putting that in the headline? Wouldn't that
did-
seem like a really big story?
Say it again.
In the article that you're talking about,
Yeah.
because the original language is in Hebrew. I don't even know if this is published in English. In the Hebrew, they literally say
It
at
is.
one
It is-
point
it is
that they
published
had
in English.
shot, and there were probably some Israeli people that were still being held
Not
by
some,
Hamas.
many,
But it was not many. That word was never used.
How many were
There
killed
is
in
no
Kibbutz Berry?
part-
How many were
What?
killed in Kibbutz Berry?
Total, or when the IDF came back
When the
through?
artillery started firing short artillery fire,
That-
at
we don't
Kibbutz
know
Berry,
how many were killed after that.
Well, according to Haaretz, it was either 118 or 181. I can't remember
There's
the exact
no
figure.
shot that
There is-
story
that's-
exists.
there
That is
I got it
absolutely. You don't
Check-
think that would be
check my
scream for
thread-
the wolf?
Check
We'll
my
look for
thread
it.
on
We'll look
when
for
the
it.
baby was killed.
We'll
When
look for it
Elias-
afterwards.
Who killed Elias Cohen, the baby?
We'll look
Who
for it
killed-
afterwards. But
who
for
killed the
Apache,
baby
I don't know the
Elias
name
Cohen?
of every single person that got
Who
killed.
killed the baby? The
When
one baby.
the
Real
Apache
quick,
helicopters
3
are shooting at
minutes.
Kibbutz Berry.
Real quick,
Kibbutz Berry
3
is right
minutes.
next to the. It's next to
3
the.
minutes, but I see that you guys are obviously very.
Sure.
I'm not going to end this, so I'll put another 2 minutes on the clock because I think this is important and hash out this discussion. Go ahead.
Who killed the baby?
The only
baby that was
only
killed. I mean, they were talking about beheaded babies and killed babies. So babies are important. Who killed the one Israeli baby?
The only
Who
people
killed the
that
one
were getting.
Israeli baby,
I don't
please?
know the name of every single person
Who
killed.
killed it
That's
then?
great that this is
Maybe-
the one factoid that you've remembered.
No.
But we can all look this afterwards. So if we Google 187 Israelis killed by IDF Haaretz, we're going to find a Haaretz article
Yeah.
that confirms that, and nobody
no.
else in Israel, nobody else is talking about that, or.
No. What the article will confirm is that there was short artillery fire by the Israelis, and in Kibbutz Berry, 118 or 180 people were killed at that time.
Oh no! Hold on. How would they know who was killed before and who was killed after? If
What
the
do you
Israeli
mean?
response was hours later, how would they have known who got killed initially and who got killed
No,
afterwards?
because we've got eyewitness testimony. Yasmin Pora says that basically what happened was the Israelis were shooting indiscriminately. This was an Israeli woman. Yasmin Pora, you do know, is an Israeli woman. She did many interviews, and when they were getting exposed, they stopped her interviews and basically silenced her.
The shooting indiscriminately into the kibbutz happened after the initial invasion and they were heading out. Even your own narrative doesn't make sense because the IDF didn't respond in time. Hold on. The IDF did not respond in time to get to the actual Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad before they were already on their way back into Israel. If they were already there shooting at people, because Kibbutz Berry is going to happen. No, Kibbutz Berry is going to happen before you get to the festival. If they were already able to stop them there, then there's no way that they would have got it. It didn't make any sense.
Because you're trying to make the argument that the military takes one target and then another target. That literally doesn't happen. They literally attacked people at the Nova Festival, and they were at the Kibbutz Berry, and they basically attacked in the Kibbutz Berry. The problem is that from the chain of command up, top down, and it's been confirmed by that lieutenant colonels give the command to basically attack indiscriminately because they weren't able to differentiate. There's even a report saying that what Hamas did was they were walking slowly. So because they were walking slowly, they didn't understand, they couldn't differentiate between Hamas and a civilian, and hence why they thought, you know what, we need to make sure that we basically take them out, and that's what they did. So in reality, that's what happened. So they did kill a large proportion of their own people. Look, some civilians were killed by Hamas. I'm not saying that. This isn't some kind of thing. But what I'm trying to say is the actions of Israel have demonstrated that what they did was they killed a significant number of their own civilians.
It's a factual disagreement. I don't think the timeline matches up. Hamas came in, they went back, they killed them on the way back. They might have
killed a lot of their people.
This is what I'll do.
Hannibal Directive.
Listen.
To make sure that we can hash this out, this is what I'll do.
Well, it's a factual disagreement, so I don't think.
You guys.
Yeah.
I was gonna put one more minute on the clock for each of them, so they can go ahead and give their timeline, right? And that's it. That way, that way can be both of them can put their timeline out. So,
well, listen.
What?
I know who killed the baby.
What?
And this is exactly what I said earlier. The United States isn't helping. You're going to get Chinese intervention. You're going to get Chinese intervention in Gaza.
That's an outside joke.
So she's a Zayo then. The Zayos killing babies, right?
That's nigga, bro.
So this is what I'll do. Is 1 minute okay or 2 minutes okay for both of you?
I'm chill because I think people get both arguments.
I think 60 seconds to run through this.
This is what I'll do.
Yeah,
So I'll give you guys both 60 seconds on the clock to give your timeline because this is very important. I want everybody to hear both perspectives openly without any type of interruption. Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Dustin.
There's no advantage.
Yeah, so I think that like when you talk about the IDF killing their own civilians, it's a common cope that people use to try to hand wave how many people Hamas killed when they came in. The idea that Israel was killing people in Kibbutz Berry, but somehow Hamas was still operating the Nova Festival, whatever, it doesn't make sense. Hamas came through the fence, paragliders came over, and rockets shot. They hit up kibbutzes first. You can see the whole path and the whole timeline, and then they also went to that Nova Festival, and then they started driving back. Now, as they were fleeing some of the kibbutzes, there were some people that were locked. They've got these little emergency rooms that they hide tied in because of rockets that Hamas fires all the time over the Gaza wall. And as the IDF came in, they were already, I think, generally gone from the Nova Festival, but there were still some lingering Hamas elements that were, and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, that were fighting in some of these kibbutzes. And as the IDF came in, they engaged with and they got into conflict with some of the Hamas soldiers that were in some of these kibbutzes. And as a result, there might have been, I don't even know if a single Israeli death has been confirmed from that, but there might have been some Israeli people that had been killed while Hamas was operating there. But the idea that the IDF came in quick enough to be responsible for all the deaths in the kibbutzes, but then somehow missed everybody that was further into Israel, into the Negev, at the Nova Festival just doesn't make any sense. They would have never made it back to Gaza if the IDF was already there blowing people up at the kibbutzes.
Okay. I'll turn it to you, Sulaiman, so you can give your side.
Yeah, of course. So basically, you had a scenario where Hamas came in, right? And then they basically did go to the kibbutzes. They went to various kibbutzes, kibbutz, Be'eri kibbutz, and then various other kibbutzes, and many stationed military personnel, and they were at the Nova Festival. His argument is that the Israeli military will only act in a singular manner. So he'll first go to one place, then he'll go to another place, then go to another. That's just ridiculous. There was a multi-operational situation that occurred. They had the Apache helicopters, and the Apache helicopters were basically attacking and burning people from atop, and it was people who were trying to get back to Gaza, but they did do it, and they basically applied the mass Hannibal directive, because what the aim is we don't want any hostages to do so. This is the directive that Israel have. The directive is this: we'll kill our own people because then we don't have to negotiate them as hostages. And then we've seen that throughout the history that they've done that. In terms of the kibbutzes, separate to that, they had people, and the Israeli claim is that they had hostages there, they tied them up and whatever it may be, and then the Israelis came in and they basically killed their own people. They basically started attacking Hamas and then they killed their own people, and this is confirmed by Yasmin Parra.
Can I ask one quick question? He can answer. How were the bodies burned by the Apache helicopters? Are they like long distance flamethrowers? Or if Apache helicopters are shooting guns and missiles, how are the bodies burned? Would they be exploded?
No. So in terms of the specific way, I don't understand how it works. But in terms of what you look at, what they did was they bombed the people. So if you look at the charred people, it was from the helicopters, it was from up top. So if you look at the actual cars, you look at it and there's artillery on the top of the cars. So how would that happen without there being a helicopter?
Because we have videos of Hamas throwing grenades into the cars. We see them do it.
So Hamas has got helicopters?
No, they're just tossing grenades into the cars. They have their videos
on the
of
top
them
of the cars. On the top of the cars.
They came in with RPGs as well. We have videos of that too, of them shooting rocket launchers and shit when they go to the kibbutzes.
You're basically making the argument with 200 cars. If you look at it, it's a line of cars, significant line, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cars, and they're done with RPGs. That's ridiculous. It was done by the helicopters, it was done by the Apache helicopters, and it was done from atop.
And there's no video footage of that by anybody going there. Isn't that crazy? There's not a single person of all the people coming back to the cars. Not a single person seeing all the helicopters.
There's video footage of the Apache helicopters
shooting people in the Gaza fence at the wall.
No. That was outside the Nova Festival, because the Nova Festival, the problem with it was it was right next to the border. And so what they did was when they shot it right there, because that's the whole point. What people have got issue with the Nova Festival is, why would you hold also such a festival which is right outside the prison camp?
I'm pretty sure the kibbutzes are closer to the wall than the
Nova Festival was right next to the border.
Wasn't it like 10 to 15 kilometers away?
The Nova Festival was right next to the border. This is why people have got a problem with the actions.
No, people have a problem because they don't like it anywhere in the Negev or anywhere in the South. People don't like it. People don't like the festivals anywhere in the South. But they wouldn't be happy if they were in the North or in the middle of the country either.
The problem is when you're holding a festival right outside a prison, you're basically flaunting it in their face. But anyway, that's not the reason they were attacked. But I'm just demonstrating to you why it was right next to the border. That explains it, because this is some of the arguments that people were making.
Okay. All right. I thought that was really, I know we went out the time there, but I think it was really important to hash out both perspectives and get both sides out. This will be the final question. And this is kind of one I thought about while you guys were discussing. Does Israel run American foreign policy? I will go ahead and, because I've seen you guys kind of oppose this, but we'll go ahead and just ask that question, because that's really a big elephant in the room here, I think, that everyone talks about. Does Israel run American foreign policy? Who wants to go first on this? And then we can do so everyone feels fair. We can do a lightning round at the end where you guys can go ahead, and I'll put like 3 minutes on the clock like last time.
I can go first. Mine is going to be simple.
Yeah,
sure, I mean, I think the United States has an interest in Israel. I don't think that means Israel runs foreign policy any more than Ukraine runs foreign policy, any more than anybody else runs foreign policy that we've got an interest in. I think that Israel is an important ally in the Middle East. They are I think that our shining beacon of democracy in the Middle East. We trade with them a lot. They do a lot of tech work for us. We get a lot of information from them. They help us in terms of like securing other allies in the region and fighting against Iran. So I think it's pretty obvious why we support Israel, and the idea that we have like some unique attachment to them, or that we're like hypnotized or mind fucked by them into supporting them, I just don't think there's any evidence for that.
Okay, that was short and sweet. So your stance is their foreign policy with Israel is no different than Ukraine or other countries that we have.
We probably like them a little more because of the history, but I don't think it's like anything more special than that. You know?
Okay, fair.
Okay, so we just like them a little bit more, right? So AIPAC is a prime example of how they run US politics. Basically, they themselves say 95 to 98% of the people that they endorse are guaranteed to basically be get office in the United States. In addition to that, when you look at it, if you look at the actions, you saw it. Even now, people were people from the right were basically against sending funding to Ukraine. But when it comes to Israel, it doesn't matter if you're left or right. Even the college protests being slightly more left or mainly more left, the people who were the Democrats did not care, because Israel controls American politics, both from the left and the right. And same with UK politics. It doesn't matter if you're Keir Starmer or if you're Rishi Sunak. It doesn't matter if you're Donald Trump or you're Biden. You are controlled by the Israeli regime. So what then happens is the actions of the Israelis are basically direct America on how to act, and therefore they direct the funding, they direct all aspects of it. It's why someone like Speaker Johnson, as soon as he comes in, despite the furore that he comes in with, he literally did not care about issues within America. Many Americans care about the border, they care about these things, but he actually went immediately and said, I'm going to give funding to Israel. It's not something that is, I like him slightly more. Like, who literally does that unless you're literally controlling the politics? I mean, in Twitter, we have the something called APAC tracker, and it literally is, as soon as someone from America, a senator or congressman, makes a statement which is full on pro-Zio, you literally have him showing, look, they've received this much money from the Zios, they've received this much from the lobby, and everybody knows, and it's well known as well, intrinsically, not just from the financial aspect, that you literally have to be pro-Israel, pro-Zionist to have an opportunity to run for office. That is extreme foreign intervention. The irony of the same people crying about Russian intervention, crying about Chinese intervention, when a foreign state is explicitly and intrinsically running your country.
Okay, turn it to Destiny.
Yeah, I think that Israel's just really popular with the American people. I think, unfortunately, 9/11 didn't really do a good job at PR for Muslims. I think there were a lot of problems related to that. I think the Iraq and the Afghanistan war probably put a bad taste in our mouths relating to Muslims. And I think that Israel just always enjoyed, at least since 66 or 67, like pretty broad support from the United States. And we just have viewed them more favorably than other people in the region. The idea that there's some special relationship that they have or some super ability to garner support in the U.S., I just think that for pretty understandable reasons. I even look at like the October 7th attacks. You get stuff like this. You get stuff like, rockets coming over walls constantly. You get stuff like people that are saying they want to destroy an entire country over and over again. It's not really surprising why people in the United States would be more favorable to a democracy like Israel than they would to a, Islamist theocratic regime in the Gaza Strip.
Okay. Turn it to you, Sulaiman.
So first of all, 9/11, I mean, there's evidence to suggest that Israel was involved in that. So I don't know what that argument is coming from, again, to cause Americans to go to the Middle East and basically cause destruction in the Middle East. You mentioned Afghanistan and Iraq. Well, I already explained it. This was done for the Israelis. You're basically providing evidence that American foreign policy is specifically for Israel. You mentioned October the 7th. What's October the 7th got to do with America? But it's because you, in your mind, you know that when you attack Israel, what's going to happen is Israel's puppy, America, has to jump in and basically protect it. That's literally the position that you're making. In reality, when you said that Hamas is an Islamist regime, I don't know what argument you're making from that, because if you look at the Hamas charter, they're very clear that their charter is based on equality, fairness, and justice. On difference to the Netanyahu regime, to the Likud regime, which is using biblical references in terms of explaining their actions, calling their adversaries biblical terms such as the Amalek. If anybody is using religious terms to strike or using this as a political religious war, it is the Zionist regime.
Okay. Destiny, your rebuttal to that? This has been one of the most civilized debates, well organized, man.
Yeah.
I can't. There's like not really any way to fight against any of the claims because there's not any meat to any of these. I mean, we can go over the 9/11 truther stuff. I kind of did it with Ryan Dawson here. I'm not really convinced that there's much meat there. We can go over the idea that Israel forced the United States to go to war in Afghanistan.
I'll do that if. Do you want to go into 9/11?
I'm not bothered
I
about
had a question real quick.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That happened recently.
Sure.
So Sneako.
Hold on, before we do this, because this is completely off topic.
Oh, sure.
Are you guys content with
I'm
the
pretty
discussion we had?
I don't think there's any special thing.
Don DeMarco, thank you guys for doing the Palestine-Israel debate. Probably one of the most civilized, well-structured debates, and thank you guys for being so civil and professional. Sorry, go ahead, Fresh.
So you and Sneako did a stream recently, and religion was brought up. Christianity, Islam, and there was a fundamental point that was brought up about Aisha, age of consent. And you have to go to question. He didn't give a direct answer. Now I ask a question to you guys here on the panel. What is the age of consent in Islam, you would say?
How do you know Aisha was 9?
Because I think it said she was like playing with dolls.
Now, how do you know she was 9? Where do you get that information from?
Don't they give the age in the Quran for her?
It's not in the Quran. Fake news.
Okay, where is it?
You tell me. You're the one who talks about it more than anyone I know.
I asked Sneako about it because he was the one coming on as the
No, but
religious
you've
expert.
talked about.
I'm not.
No,
Muslim.
You've talked about. No, listen.
Yeah?
It's fine. You can talk about anything. When you talk about it, you should be educated on it. You've talked about it on social media. You tweet about it. I want to know where you got the information from.
The really easy. I got it because it triggers the fuck out of Muslims. That's why I bring it up. Because here's the reality. You can tell me that it's not found anywhere in the Quran. But when I bring up, hey, Aisha was 9, and I start getting death threats, it feels like people want to fuck 9-year-olds. That's the feeling that I get. Now, if it's the case that like, where are you even getting this from, bro? That's not even true. Then they would just say it. But instead, there's like literally a plethora. There's more defenses of fucking 9-year-olds from the world of Islam than there is from the entire world of fucking libertarianism. Okay, like when you go online, there's like 50 million different videos that talk about why Aisha was actually really developed for 9 years old, and the dolls she was playing with were actually like super Barbies for like adolescents or teens or whatever.
Listen, again, you're going into propaganda. The point is, you do not know where you got it from. So this is the problem when people don't have the education or knowledge. They literally try and blag it, right? So in reality, and this is the issue you have. You do not understand how Islamic epistemology and hermeneutics work. It is not mentioned in the Quran. And according to Muslims, the Quran is certain knowledge. And then you have basically other things, such as hadith, such as the opinion of the scholar, which is not considered certain knowledge. Some people agree with it. Some people disagree with it. It could be false. It could be true. It's not certain information. So when you say Aisha was 9, this is mentioned in hadith. But there is all the alternative hadith that basically give the idea that she was actually more older than 9. She was 18. So if your position is that, look, having sex with 9-year-olds is pedophilia, I agree with you, right? But even though I've seen videos of you trying to basically
Isn't the hadith that it comes from like one of the, which hadith is it? Isn't one of the most cited, most trusted hadiths, or is this just one part we don't like of it?
No. So the hadith, so any hadith, and this is the problem, any hadith, what we have is basically passed on from one person to another, to another, to another. So any hadith, every single Muslim scholar will tell you, epistemologically, is probabilistic knowledge. Probabilistic means it could be right or it could be wrong. It could be true, it may not be true. And therefore, it has no tenets when it comes to Islam. So if someone was to reject, example, the hadith about Aisha being 9, he would not leave the fold of Islam because not rejecting the tenets of within the religion. So her being 9, so my position, she was 18, as an example, right? So because I think that hadith has epistemological issues, as well as the person who narrated that hadith has memory issues. So again, this is an attack on Islam. This is an attack on that specific, or people, anyone who believes that hadith, or for example, the hadith.
Sure.
Because Islam is not mentioned in Quran.
Why don't Muslims just say that then?
Because again, the problem.
Why is it that on Twitter when you bring up, why don't they? Because like you bring up like, why don't you make fun of Jews? When I ever bring up like, what about the penis circumcision thing? Every Jewish guy goes, oh, that's fucking weird. That's what I see. But when I bring up the Aisha thing, okay, well, I haven't found any Jew that wants to defend it to me. Okay, maybe that Rabbi Shmuley guy, I've ever talked to him, maybe he would, because that guy seems fucking insane. But whenever I bring up anything on Twitter about like Aisha, it's like fucking World War III. It's like World War like Muhammad edition, where I've got like so many people.
No, you've admitted it because the reason when you bring it up, it's not based on academia, epistemology, anything like that.
It just triggers people.
No, you do it to basically attack people. So
yeah, I do. Because I think most Muslims in the United States and in Europe, I don't think they want to like have sex with 9-year-olds. I don't think they would support that.
They clearly don't. And if you ask them, most people would say, look, the argument, those who even believe it, they'll be like, look, we accept it, but it was physically, emotional development is a different time. And I don't agree with these arguments. I'm just saying they make those arguments, but they say right now the development is later mentally and physically, and therefore it should be much later. So even their argument isn't that you should have sex with 9-year-olds.
Sure.
The reason you get that response is because you specifically are doing it to attack a person individually.
3 minutes.
And so people are emotional. So people are going to provide an emotional response. That's
Can I add, the Quran 65:4, I don't know how that works, but you're saying that it proves that she was of a younger age, or
impossible. It's not in Quran.
They're saying in the chat. I'm not really sure about that, but
fake news.
What he's saying is epistemologically in Islam, the Quran is considered the direct word of God.
Facts.
Every letter written in the Quran is true. Given from Allah or whatever. But hadiths are oral tradition that are passed down from other people, and the credibility of the hadiths and the interpretation of them can be called into question, and you can have like imams debating between the validity between
and
the
there's
hadiths.
a mechanism to work out the authenticity.
Sure.
Okay.
I don't know how true that is.
Are you guys satisfied with that?
I think he brought up a good point.
Yeah.
If that was the case, why doesn't every other Muslim just say that?
No, because there are Muslims who believe that she was 9, and so the point is when he's attacking them, it's attacking them for their specific position, and so obviously they're emotionally connected to that position. So, but my point is, my issue with Destiny is he didn't know what he was arguing, where it come from, the source of it, and he didn't know the epistemological and hermeneutical reasons. He was just doing it to attack Muslims, and he's admitted that, and obviously hence why he gets the response he did.
Sneako got real triggered. Pretty funny. It was fucking funny.
That's even viral though.
Oh my God. Okay.
I didn't watch the Sneako one.
I'll read the chat. Shout out to Sneako. He'll be here.
What percentage of? I'm curious. What percentage of Muslims think you agree with that?
Agree with what?
With your hadith interpretation there.
I'll set the timer. 3 minutes.
So it's
3
a good
minutes.
question.
Well,
so
I'm just curious.
right now or classically?
Right now.
So classically, I would say it's the vast majority. Right now, I would say the minority.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, right now the minority agree with you or disagree with you?
Agree with me.
So the
agree with me.
majority of Muslims right now think that Aisha was 9 years
That's
old.
right, yeah.
Well, wait, then what the is the point of all this then?
Because I'm trying to explain to you. No. The point is because you have to understand how hermeneutics work, and you need to understand that what you attacking isn't Islam. You're attacking a certain position that some people have within Islam, even if it's the majority. That was my point I was trying to make. And actually, my position is a position that was held by a large proportion in the early centuries. So, for example, the person who narrated the hadith, his own teacher wouldn't take that hadith of him, as an example. So it wasn't accepted as much in that time.
Is that the guy with the bad memory?
Yeah.
Just so the audience understands?
Yeah, it's the guy with the bad memory. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So Imam Malik, who was his teacher, who's one of the founders of Sunni legal theory, did not take that narration from him.
Okay. We still got 2 minutes on the clock. Anything else that you guys want to... Okay. I just want to make sure all parties are satisfied. That was a great discussion. I'll read the chats and we'll close this out.
Girl show.
Yeah.
Cool.
What do we got here? We got Destiny is Dayuth, Sulaiman and Myron know what I'm saying. And fresh beat the Ching Chong lying whore in court. You got this. Okay.
Thanks,
well,
bro.
yeah, man. I mean, when you got the truth on your side, there's nothing really that can happen.
I mean,
what else do we got here?
Pretty much.
That's it. Yeah. Cool. Yo, Destiny, Sulaiman, thank you guys so much for coming. Where can the people find you guys?
Yeah.
YouTube.com/Destiny. That's it.
You'll see clips of this on the
Cake.com/Destiny.
channel.
Yeah.
And Sulaiman, where can the people find you?
Twitter, Sheikh Sulaiman.
One of the biggest political commentators on Twitter right now, man. 500,000 plus.
And I didn't know that Destiny was RP, man. That was awesome. Just kidding.
Hey guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this debate, man. There's probably one of the
I
more
appreciate
civil
that
ones
Destiny is the first Zayo I've debated who literally didn't interrupt. I was ready for him to interrupt and start calling him a Zayo, and it didn't happen.
That's why I put the time limits in there, man.
You didn't get a chance for me to call him a Zayo.
Oh man.